Hey everyone, and welcome. So, if you're getting ready for the CTET Paper 2 in science, you know just how much stuff there is to get through. It's a lot. But what if I told you there's a smarter way to study? Today, we're going to uncover a really powerful pattern that can help you score big just by focusing on what actually matters.
So, does this look familiar? You, a stack of NCERT science books for classes 6, 7, and 8, trying to memorize every single page? If you're nodding right now, just take a breath. We totally get it. It is incredibly overwhelming.
I mean, let's be real. The Ctet science syllabus feels like a gigantic ocean. You've got physics problems, never-ending chemistry reactions, super confusing biology diagrams. It is so easy to feel like you're just drowning in all this information. But here's a thought that could completely change the game for you. To lock in over 20 marks out of 30, what if you didn't have to swim that whole ocean? What if you just had to focus on 10 specific, high-value islands of knowledge? And I'm telling you, this isn't just a theory. It's a real, proven strategy.
So how do we know this actually works? Well, we went back and analyzed the last 10 years of Ctet question papers, and you know what? A really surprising pattern popped out. The examiners asked questions from the exact same 10 core topics again and again, and today we're giving you that list.
All right, let's kick things off with the subjects that a lot of people find kind of intimidating, physics and chemistry. But don't you worry, we are going to zero in on just a handful of topics that are going to give you the most bang for your buck, points-wise.
First up, we've got light, and here's the inside scoop. Ctet almost never asks for dry textbook definitions. Nope. Instead, they care about real-world applications. They want to know why a dentist is using a concave mirror, or what kind of mirror is in your car. The big difference you got to remember is how they work. Mirrors reflect light, they bounce it back, while lenses refract them, which just means they bend the light as it passes through.
Next on the list is electricity, but here is the best news you'll hear all day. You can totally forget about complicated math problems. Seriously, the exam only tests the absolute basics. The most important thing is just knowing the difference between conductors, which let current flow through, like any metal, and insulators, which block it, like plastic or rubber. You'll probably just get a list of things and have to sort them. Easy peasy.
And our third physics superstar is friction. The questions here pretty much always come down to one simple idea. Is friction helping us, or is it getting in our way? Just think about it for a second. Why do we sprinkle powder on a carom board? To reduce friction, right? And why do our shoes have those grooves on the bottom? To increase friction so we don't slip and fall. It's all about these practical, everyday situations.
Okay, let's switch gears to chemistry. And here we have what you could honestly call the king of all Ctet topics, acids, bases, and salts. And within this topic, the examiner's absolute favorite thing to ask about is natural indicators. You know, stuff like turmeric, litmus paper, and China rose.
Now this is the perfect example of how Ctet tests your logic, not just what you've memorized. They'll give you a scenario. You get a yellow turmeric stain on your shirt, and when you rub soap on it, it turns red. What does that tell you? Well, you know turmeric is a natural indicator that turns red when it touches a base. So, soap must be a base. See? No complicated chemical formulas to remember, just pure, simple logic.
Our last chemistry topic here is metals and nonmetals. For this one, you just need to focus on a few key facts that show up all the time. First, reactivity. You have to know why sodium is stored in kerosene and phosphorus is kept in water. It's because they are just so reactive. Next, there's a classic lab experiment, the pop sound test, which is always the giveaway for hydrogen gas. And finally, a bit of real-life chemistry. An ant bite stings because of formic acid, which you can soothe with a base like baking soda.
All right, that's 5 topics down, 5 to go. Let's dive into the section that often has the most questions, biology. Now, I know it can seem like a huge, sprawling subject, but the exact same strategic approach works here. Let's find those biggest hits.
The first biology topic is food, and the focus here is super sharp. It's all about vitamins, minerals, and the diseases you get when you don't have enough of them. You can pretty much guarantee you'll see a match-the-column question on this. So, knowing that a lack of vitamin A causes night blindness or that low iron leads to anemia is absolutely essential. Making a little chart, just like this one, is a super effective way to study.
Next up, the human body. This is another massive topic, but the exam consistently hammers on 2 key systems. First, the path of digestion. You absolutely have to know the sequence of how food travels, from the mouth all the way down to the small intestine. And second, the circulatory system.
The key fact to remember here is that the left side of the heart deals with oxygenated or pure blood, while the right side handles the impure, deoxygenated blood.
Okay, let's talk about plants. Now, besides the basics of how they reproduce and photosynthesis, there is one super popular question that just keeps popping up. Why does the pitcher plant eat insects? And no, it's not because it's a carnivore. The real answer is all about the soil it grows in. The soil is poor in nitrogen, so the plant has to trap and digest insects to get the nitrogen it needs to live.
And to wrap up our top 10 list, we've got two final topics. First, separating substances. This is all about processes like threshing and winnowing. You know how a farmer uses the wind to separate wheat from the chaff. And second, microorganisms. For this, you just need to know how they're classified and what they do. Both the good stuff, like lactobacillus turning milk into curd, and the harmful stuff.
So there you have it. Those are the 10 topics. Just knowing this list gives you a massive, massive advantage. But hang on, remember the beginning I promised you a hidden rule? A secret little method for how to actually study these topics that is absolutely key to your success?
Well, here it is, the real secret to scoring over 20 marks. It isn't found in the main text of the chapters. I'm serious. If you are only reading the main theory, you are missing half the picture. And way more importantly, you're missing half the questions.
The real gold mine, the place where almost half of all Ctet science questions come directly from, is in the boxes. You know those little blue and yellow activity boxes, the sidebars with fun facts, even the questions asked by those characters, Bujo and Paheli? That is where the examiners are getting their ideas. Ignoring these is pretty much the biggest mistake you can possibly make.
Let me give you a perfect example. A question a few years ago asked, what chemical is on the side of a matchbox? And you can read the main chapter 10 times, and you won't find that info. It's tucked away in a tiny little info box. The answer? Red phosphorus. The students who read the boxes knew this instantly. Everybody else was just guessing. This is the kind of detail that makes all the difference.
So now you have the entire strategy. You know what to study, and just as crucially, you now know how to study it. Let's put this all together for your mission.
The choice here is pretty clear, right? The hard work path is trying to read every single page, feeling totally swamped, and just kind of hoping for the best. But the smart work path, the one we've laid out today, means you focus on these 10 high-value topics, and you pay super close attention to every single box and activity in those NCRT books. That path leads to confidence, and it gives you a clear, strategic way to win.
You now have the playbook to completely ace the content part of this exam. But, you know, the journey doesn't stop there. Once you pass and you become a teacher, your job flips from taking tests to creating them. How do you actually figure out if a child is learning? That's a whole different skill set, and it's something we'll be digging into next.